The international break may be here, but for Arsenal, things are getting interesting. So today we'll break down 4 potential midfield signings, find out who is Arsenal's newest super talents, discuss a new role for Gabriel Martinelli, and find out about the game-changing news from the Premier League. Yo, what is going on guys? My name is Baus14, welcome back to your boy's channel, and the international break may be boring but your boy is here to deliver. So smash a like on the video if you enjoy, subscribe to the channel if you are new. But starting off with Arsenal's international excellence. William Saliba was involved in a crazy game. France beating Gibraltar 14-0. A hat-trick from Kylian Mbappe, a double for Olivier Giroud. Saliba came off the bench with 9 minutes left, made 7 out of 7 passes and kept it moving. The next step for Saliba is clear. With Raphael Varane now internationally retired, Saliba now wants to be a France starter. The issue is France have a lot of options, from Konate, Upamecano and Todibo. The Euros around the corner, Saliba's got a fight on his hands. But what about the England boys? Bukayo Saka and Declan Rice were both involved as England beat Malta 2-0. There was a standout moment in this game involving Declan Rice. With the game at 2-0, Rice picked the ball up on the left hand side, drove forward and curled the ball into the back of the net with a beautiful finish. The goal was disallowed because of Harry Kane being in an offside position. But can you guys notice the evolution? Every time he's on the ball for club and country, we are seeing authority. This is Rice's understanding now. Under Mikel Arteta, he has got the ability to impose himself in any midfield. Bukayo Saka also had a moment, coming off the bench in the second half and a 7.2 rating, assisting Harry Kane's goal with 29 touches, 20 accurate passes. There's something specific that we need to focus on. Bukayo Saka's England efficiency, 11 goals in 31 caps. Under Southgate, he seems to be an output machine. Mikel Arteta will be watching closely, seeing Saka thrive more centrally and in the half spaces, less touchline and more centrally. It might be time to use him there for Arsenal, to maximise Bukayo's goal scoring threats. We need to now talk about a very surprise tactic involving Kai Havertz. The shock news before the game from German coach Julian Nagelsmann was Kai Havertz was going to play as a left back, saying that Kai will always be in this position, but I have a great idea. He's an exceptionally good footballer. This is a very good option. He won't always be playing as a classic left back. The idea behind this was to use Havertz as a roamer, allowing him to enter the box unmarked. 5 minutes into the game, the tactic worked, as Kai Havertz scored the opening goal. Despite Germany losing 3-2, Havertz had an overall 7.0 rating, made 5 clearances, 2 interceptions, 1 tackle, but also gave away a penalty. The key part that Arsenal fans need to focus on is the way Havertz scored his goal, arriving into the box instinctively and finishing first time. That is exactly what Arteta wants for Arsenal. This was Havertz's first open play goal of the season. Could this be a confidence game changer? You also had a moment for David Raya, making his first ever start for Spain as they beat Cyprus 3-1. But let's focus on Arsenal's boys in Brazil, as both Gabriel Magalhaes and Gabriel Martinelli started for Brazil. The game may have ended 2-1 to Colombia, but for Gabriel Magalhaes this was another massive moment. This time a year ago left out of the Brazil squad. A year later he is now a consistent starter. You can see that he's playing with a different hunger. Look at his video of Gabriel in training. Up against 17-year-old Hendrick, Gabriel was taking no prisoners, out of the way you go. The reason behind all of this is obvious. The Brazil national team is a very pressurized environment. Every defeat means scrutiny. Gabriel understands to stay in the team, he needs to be playing with authority. But things are getting very interesting regarding Gabriel Martinelli, starting for Brazil as a centre forward. There's a reason why fans should be excited. Here's a recent video of Martinelli in Brazil training. Playing as a centre forward, watch the way he picks the ball up and drives it forwards. The prime example of Martinelli's quality. Centre forwards that are able to drive the ball forwards have always been a rare profile. Think of the likes of Luis Suarez, Thierry Henry. For Martinelli, this moment was special. Starting for Brazil in a massive game, scoring the opening goal to make it 1-0. His first ever goal for his country. A 7.3 rating with an 89% passing accuracy, 1 key pass and 5 ground balls won. We need to focus on the goal. The combination play with Vinicius Jr. to get the ball into the final third, and the instinctive finish to place into the back of the net. Martinelli is arguably Arsenal's best finisher. Arsenal are looking for a striker, but they might have one on their books. The fact that Arteta has targeted left wingers in the past like Mudryk and Pedro Neto, maybe that was with the idea of moving Martinelli centrally. We've also got some news on Gabriel Jesus, with Brazil's massive game against Argentina around the corner. Here is the expected 11 for the game, involving Arsenal's Gabriel Magalhaes and Martinelli, but also a certain Gabriel Jesus. Arsenal fans are going to be watching closely, with a simple question of how fit is Gabriel Jesus? Is he forcing himself too soon? There's also going to be a clear impact on Arsenal, as reports claim if Magalhaes, Jesus and Martinelli all start, they would have to fly home on Wednesday after the game and have less than 72 hours before Arsenal's crunch match against Brentford on Saturday evening. Talking of forwards, Arsenal have someone new. We're talking about 16-year-old Chido Obi Martin, who's making headlines for the Arsenal Academy. In a recent game against Liverpool's under-16s, Cheeto scored a total of 10 goals in a 14-3 victory. Despite being 15 years of age, Obi Martin is so good that he's now being fast forward to the Arsenal under-18s. Also involved in Arsenal first team training, as George Bird points out. Arsenal have tied him down to a scholarship deal, but there's long-term interest there from Borussia Dortmund and Anderlecht. Talking of strikers, we need to talk about Ivan Toney, soon to return to Brentford after a long-term suspension. They've got a bit of a dilemma. Toney wants to move to a top club as soon as possible, but Brentford are set to lose both Mbeumo and Wissa, who are also going to AFCON. So what does that mean for a transfer? Alex Crook of TalkSport says, "I have been reliably told now that Ivan Toney is not going to move in the January transfer window. It's going to be in the summer if he does end up leaving Brentford." Here's where Arsenal are thinking. Toney's a very good option in January, but are there better options available in the summer? More importantly, there may be other priorities. With Thomas Partey out injured, a lack of cover behind William Saliba, Arsenal are turning their attentions elsewhere. Let's move on to the midfield moves. We need to focus on the future of Fabio Vieira. According to reports in France, Marseille seem to be interested in the profile Fabio Vieira. Lacking playing time at his club, Marseille are studying the possibility of loaning the attacking midfielder this winter. Fabio Vieira is definitely interesting. 2 starts in the league this season with 2 assists and 1 goal. Look at his overall stats radar over the last year. Defensive work rate is non-existent, but the creativity is undeniable. Look at the open play expected assist, the goal probability added. The issue for Vieira is not the level of quality, it's how often we see it. You've got the cameo of the bench against Fulham where he changed the game and got the assist, to then a red card against Burnley. This was meant to be his moment. Odegaard's out injured, likewise Emil Smith-Rowe. Still only 23 years of age, Vieira's got potential, but this year he needs to be a difference maker. Because if you don't make it, Mikel Arteta is a ruthless guy. Look at what he's done with Aaron Ramsdale. You've also got rumours about the future of Thomas Partey. According to Santiago Una, Juventus are looking at Thomas Partey on loan this winter, as Juve's sporting director was in London recently to meet the player. This is definitely not happening. Not only is Thomas Partey one of Arsenal's best midfielders, but he's also going to be busy in January, going with Ghana to the African Cup of Nations. The only time I see Arsenal letting him go is in the summer. But what do Arsenal have planned in terms of incomings? According to the Footy Insider, Arsenal ready to back Mikel Arteta to the hilt in the January transfer window. It is believed the club chiefs are ready to spend up to £50 million on a single player, with central midfield a priority. Arsenal have got quite a few targets, starting off in Spain and Real Sociedad. According to Kaya Kainak, one of the midfielders that Arsenal are tracking is Martin Zubimendi. There's a reason why this profile makes sense. Zubimendi is 24 years of age, soon to enter the peak of his powers. It all goes back to the idea of control. There's a certain profile they don't have in midfield, a Thiago Alcantara. Look at Zubimendi's passing numbers, 40 per game at an 86% passing accuracy, alongside very good defensive numbers, 1.3 interceptions per game, 1.5 tackles, and 5.5 ball recoveries. What stands out to me is the fluidity. If you watch Zubimendi closely, every time he receives the ball, it's one touch, pass and keep it moving. That's why in Spain he's drawn a very good comparison to a certain Sergio Busquets. Having come through the same area as Mikel Arteta and San Sebastian, the Arsenal boss has been a massive fan for a long time. Go all the way back to January 2023, Arsenal considered activating Zubimendi's €60 million release clause, but Arsenal have competition. As reports in Germany claim, Bayern Munich will rival Arsenal in the pursuit of 24-year-old Martin Zubimendi. Arsenal may have an advantage though. With a certain Kieran Tierney currently on Real Sociedad, Arsenal have made a good relationship. The next target is one coming out of Brazil. As Nizar Kinsella confirms, Arsenal are one of the teams ready to move for Corinthians' Gabriel Moscardo. However, Chelsea are currently leading the race for the 18-year-old Brazilian. Moscardo's profile is different. Despite coming out of Brazil, he's seen more as a hard-tackling midfielder, and actually drawn comparisons to a certain Declan Rice. Take this recent performance as an example. A 7.5 rating with 41 touches, 19 accurate passes, 2 out of 2 dribbles, 8 ground balls won, 1 clearance, 3 interceptions and 5 tackles. Arteta's Arsenal are all about off-the-ball control. Moscardo is suited to that environment. Arsenal also have a very important connection. We are talking about Edu Gaspar, a former Corinthians player and sporting director, who was recently in Brazil during the last international break, visiting a certain Corinthians. There's also been a surprise emergence. Fabrizio Romano confirms at Arsenal we've seen some surprise links with a loan move for Ruben Neves, who's mainly been linked with Newcastle, but there's also historical interest from Arteta, who's always liked Neves. There are no negotiations at the moment. The reason why this makes sense is January. A transfer window is all about opportunities. Neves is currently in Saudi Arabia, having signed there in the summer, but wants to return to the Premier League ahead of Euro 2024. Look at his passing numbers from last year's Premier League season. What stands out to me is 6.1 accurate long balls per game. That was the second highest in the league last year. Neves is a fantastic player when it comes to switching play. For Arsenal, that could be very useful. With the quality of Martinelli and Bukayo Saka out wide, the whole idea is to get the ball to them as soon as possible, somewhere that Neves excels. There's also a sense of an opportunity. Despite of Newcastle's interest, they can't seem to sign him. Newcastle and Al Hilal both have the same owners. As David Ornstein confirms, Premier League clubs are set to vote on banning loans between associated parties in the January transfer window. Potential deals like Ruben Neves from Al Hilal to Newcastle will be blocked, a temporary measure until a long-term solution is agreed. This is a short-term move that makes a lot of sense. But let's talk about our more long-term targets. Fabrizio Romano says, I mentioned the name of Douglas Luiz last week as a top target for Arsenal, and I can confirm that guys at Arsenal really want and appreciate Douglas Luiz. There are so many factors that make him top of the list for Arsenal now. But what exactly are these factors? Douglas Luiz is an all-round midfielder, comfortable in every area of the pitch. And the prime example is his performance against Brentford. A 9.1 rating with 2 goals scored, 64 passes, 3 key passes, 5 accurate long balls, 3 ground balls won, 2 clearances, 1 block shot and 3 tackles. There's 2 important things that stand out to me. The first is intensity. Watching Luiz play, what you see is a player trying to make things happen. He's got the ability to progress the ball up there with the best. Look at these numbers here as an example. Right down the middle there, alongside the likes of Rodri and McAllister, you've also got the press resistance. Luiz completes in total 62% of his dribbles, but also 88% of his passes, 54 per game in total. That is what you call a midfield controller. And a certain guy at Man City is a massive fan of him. Having signed for Man City all the way back in 2017, as Pep Guardiola said, Douglas Luiz would have played for Man City if it wasn't for a work permit issue. Pep was willing to go one step further. In fact, according to The Athletic, when word reached Pep Guardiola in 2018 that work permit issues were preventing Douglas Luiz from playing for Man City, he sent video footage to the Home Office explaining how Luiz would be important to his side in the months and years ahead. In 2018, there was also a certain Mikel Arteta, who was at Man City at the time. Luiz also has one more very important attribute: constant availability. Since 2018-19, Luiz has not missed a single game via injury, missing only 7 games in his entire career. Availability is so important for Mikel Arteta. That's the reason why he signed Declan Rice, who's not only stayed fit, but has also not received a single yellow card in the Premier League this season. Moving on to the other Arsenal news today. Starting off with Arsenal sporting director Edu Gaspar, who was given the Best European Director Award at the Golden Boy 2023. But I want to focus on the man that brought him to Arsenal in the first place, Arsene Wenger. Currently working for FIFA trying to improve football, we might be about to see a game-changing rule. According to Marca, the Arsene Wenger offside law being introduced in 2024-25 is a real possibility. Here's an example of what onside looks like. As long as there's a part of the attacker's body in line with the defender, he remains onside. But if the attacker's body completely overtakes the last defender, that's when you see offside. This would give the attackers a different level of advantage. Goals would be galore, but defending could become impossible. What do you guys make of this potential rule? We've also got some very important news. The Premier League have announced that Everton have been handed a 10-point deduction for FFP violation, which moves them all the way down to 19th place, with the reports claiming the likes of Burnley, Leeds and Leicester are planning to sue Everton for £300 million. This all comes down to finances. The Premier League rules state that you're only allowed to lose a certain amount over 3 years. At the end of the 2021-22 season, Everton went over that limit. To take away 10 points, the Premier League made a massive statement. As Everton have announced themselves, the club will now monitor with great interest the decisions made in the other cases concerning the Premier League's profit and sustainability rules. We're now looking at Chelsea and more importantly Man City, with 115 potential violations. The Premier League are still investigating that. You only have to think to yourselves, if only one FFP rule break took 10 points away from Everton, what did the Premier League have planned for Chelsea and Man City? According to reports, Chelsea and City look set to face relegation from the Premier League after Everton's 10-point deduction if they are found guilty of breaking FFP rules. For City, things get even worse. Not only are they fighting off FFP charges, but also potential illegal payments, which question the integrity of the sport. That is the video there and there though, so hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you have, don't forget to smash a like and also subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you want to follow your boy on all of his social medias, then the links are down below in the description. But that was all of today's latest Arsenal news, and the international break is progressing. Arsenal focus on themselves, but also keeping an eye on Chelsea and Man City. Let's see how things progress, and I'll see you next time. Take care, in a bit.